Comment down below where you're watching from and don't forget to like and subscribe if you hate Karen. Tuesday afternoon, I stepped outside my front door to scoop the mail from the curbside box, a pleasant ritual that usually takes 90 seconds, tops. Sunlight glinted off azalea leaves, and the only sound was a distant lawnmower somewhere deeper in the subdivision. When I turned the key to re-enter my house on Redbud Court, my stomach lurched. A stranger stood inside my fenced backyard, her palms pressed to the living room window as if she were studying exhibits in a museum. She was late 40s, platinum hair pulled into a taut ponytail, pastel cardigan draped over shoulders too rigid to relax. I recognized her immediately, Karen, the self-appointed enforcer for the Sycamore Hills HOA. We had nodded politely at mailbox clusters before, but never spoken more than a hello. Now she was trespassing on my patio pavers, eyes sweeping the interior like she had every right. Our gazes locked through the glass. Unfazed, Karen slid the patio door open a crack, how she had unlatched it I still don't know, and announced in a tone usually reserved for flight attendants, "You were supposed to give us a copy of your house key. The HOA needs access for emergency inspections." My heartbeat thudded in my ears. "Excuse me?" I said, keeping the screen door between us. "That's not in any bylaws I've read." Her smile never reached her eyes. "It's an established expectation. We can't protect the neighborhood if certain residents keep secrets." I tightened my grip on the mail. "The answer is no." The smile vanished, her lips thinned like a paper cut. "You'll regret that," she whispered, stepping off the patio in a huff. "Someone will be by to explain." Only when the gate clicked shut did I realize my hands were shaking. And that my peaceful cul-de-sac had just become a chessboard. Rain pattered softly the morning after Karen's backyard ultimatum, and I'd almost convinced myself she'd think better of it, until the doorbell chimed. Standing on my porch was a broad-shouldered officer in full city police uniform. Silver name plate, Officer Grant. His left hand rested on the duty belt, the right held a manila envelope. "Good morning, ma'am," he began, stiff as a courthouse pillar. "Mind if we speak about last night's misunderstanding?" I motioned him to the covered stoop but kept the storm door between us. "Depends who sent you." "My wife." He exhaled, the words carrying equal parts apology and threat. "Karen informs me you refused HOA protocol, specifically, providing an emergency house key. She feels you're in breach." I swallowed the urge to laugh. "Officer Grant, your wife is the breach. She entered my fenced yard without permission." His jaw flexed, but he slid the envelope forward against the glass. Inside lay a single sheet stamped HOA incident form, key non-compliance and, unbelievably, a blank brass key tagged spare, fill-in address. "Let's resolve this amicably," he said, eyes scanning my foyer. "No need to elevate things." "I don't hand keys to strangers," I replied. "Certainly not to an HOA that already trespassed." Grant's brows knitted. "You don't want escalation." The implication rattled me, but a flash of clarity cut through the fear. "Document everything." I lifted my phone, tapped record. "Are you officially here on police business?" He hesitated one beat too long. "I'm off duty." "Then please leave my property. Any further requests can come in writing." Color rose in his cheeks. Wordlessly, he tucked the envelope beneath his jacket and strode to a waiting patrol cruiser, unmarked but unmistakably city issue. I watched the taillights vanish into drizzle, pulse hammering against my ribs. A cop, brandishing authority for a house key, Karen's playbook had a new page. I spent the afternoon combing HOA bylaws, county statutes, even state emergency access ordinances. Nothing, empowered neighbors to demand keys. I printed the relevant sections, highlighted them neon yellow, and slipped them into a folder labeled Defense. At dusk, movement on the corner caught my eye. Karen stood beneath a street lamp chatting with three neighbors, Mrs. Lacey from 104, Mr. Webb from 110, and a stocky newcomer I didn't recognize. Their heads tilted my way, their murmurs floated like mosquitoes. Enough. I drove to the hardware store, bought 4 Wi-Fi cameras, and by midnight every angle of my yard glimmered with passive infrared. I added a window decal, premises monitored 24/7, audio and video. Sleep came in fitful bursts. Each creak of the house felt like keys sliding into a lock that wasn't theirs. Yet beneath the anxiety-churned resolve, Karen had wielded a badge. I would answer with light and lenses. The next 48 hours were a study in eerie quiet. No letters, no doorbell, only the low hum of the server rack where my camera feeds backed up to the cloud. I reviewed footage in the evenings, raccoon at 2 a.m., mail carrier at 11 a.m., nothing human lingering longer than the breeze. Then Thursday dawned crystal blue, and at 7 a.m. the driveway camera pinged. A panel van, white, magnetic logo reading Neighborhood Safety Patrol, rolled to the curb. 2 men in tan polo shirts stepped out, clipboards in hand, and began photographing my siding, gutters, and front flower beds. I hit intercom. "Can I help you?" One flinched at the voice from the porch camera. "HOA compliance sweep," he called. "Lot 12 isn't under HOA authority," I replied. "You're trespassing." They conferred, shrugged, and drove off. 10 minutes later, the community Facebook page featured a post from Karen, Safety Patrol confirms multiple violations at non-compliant address. I screenshot it before she could delete my rebuttal citing county parcel maps. That night, I compiled a timeline. Day 1, Karen trespasses, demands key. Day 2, Officer Grant intimidation visit. Day 4, unauthorized inspection crew. I sent it, footage links attached, to my attorney friend Jade Alvarez, a civil rights litigator I'd known since college. She replied in under an hour, textbook harassment. Keep logging. Call me if it escalates. Escalation knocked faster than expected. Saturday, 10:42 p.m., curtains drawn tight while I binge-watched an more series, the front cameras lit up. Karen, flanked by Mrs. Lacey and an unfamiliar brunette, marched up the walk. Lacey carried a flashlight. The stranger brandished what looked like a flat pry bar. They pounded the door. "Open up. We need to talk," Karen's voice sliced through wood. I muted the TV, heart hammering, and watched via phone as Lacey tried the knob. Locked. The brunette wedged the pry bar, testing hinges. I dialed 911, whispering details. Dispatch logged it as attempted burglary. Then a shout from outside, "Stop hiding, we know you're in there." Suddenly a new figure strode across my lawn. Gus Hendricks, the grizzled retiree from across the street known for midnight cigar walks. In one hand a half-finished spray paint can, likely from touch-up chores, he hurled it past Karen, missing by inches. "Get off her porch!" Gus roared. Karen recoiled, flashlight beam wobbling. The trio retreated, melting into shadows. Gus stayed until police cruisers arrived, giving a statement that aligned perfectly with my footage. Officers logged an incident report. Criminal trespass and attempted forced entry. Inside, adrenaline crashed into exhaustion. But cameras had done their job, clear faces, clear intent. I emailed the clips to Jade, subject line, escalation documented. Her reply, time to draft restraining order. Sunday morning I brewed coffee for Gus as thanks. He shrugged off gratitude. "Been waiting to give that crowd a piece of my mind," he said. Whole blocks tired of the clipboard brigade. By afternoon, word of the attempted break-in spread. Neighbors I'd never met offered cookies, stories. Webb had been fined for a garden gnome. Lacey pressured folks to sign pet noise pledges. The HOA facade of consensus cracked, revealing veins of quiet resentment. Karen's response. A group email titled, Community Protection Initiative. She framed my cameras as unauthorized surveillance and announced a street-wide key collection drive. Voluntary, of course, but non-participants may be flagged for safety review. The audacity burned hot. Jade and I filed for a temporary restraining order, TRO, the next morning, citing harassment, intimidation, and threat of property invasion. The judge scheduled a hearing in 10 days and granted interim distance conditions. Karen and named associates must stay 100 feet from my lot. Papers served that evening. Karen balked online. Some people invite conflict into peaceful neighborhoods. Yet my inbox pinged with quiet applauses, including from Mr. Webb, who forwarded internal HOA chatter. The board, it seemed, was fracturing, half fearful of lawsuits, half loyal to Karen's iron grip. Midweek, an unmarked cruiser idled at midnight outside. My heart skittered until the driveway cam revealed Officer Grant behind the wheel, alone, engine running. He stared at my house 8 minutes, then drove off. I emailed the clip to Jade and, for good measure, the police department's internal affairs tip line. Friday 11:57 p.m., alarms again, infrared picked up 3 figures creeping along the side fence. Camera zoom showed Karen, the brunette, and a teenage boy hefting a duffel bag. They extracted handfuls of metal, small, spherical. Steel bearings. Marbles. Didn't matter. They began hurling them at windows, pinging like hail. I killed interior lights, dialed 911. While on hold, a sharper crack echoed, a projectile spiderwebbed the dining room glass. Karen's silhouette pointed, laughing. Spurts of adrenaline went icy. This crossed from harassment to felony vandalism. Red and blue strobes arrived fast this time, 3 units. Officers sprinted. Karen tried to flee but slipped on her own marbles and was tackled. The teen dropped the bag, inside, a slingshot and surplus ball bearings. All captured in 1080p clarity. Officer Grant arrived minutes later, not in uniform, face ashen. He attempted to intervene, misunderstanding, boys will be boys, but fellow officers blocked him. A sergeant cuffed Karen for malicious destruction of property. The brunette and teen faced juvenile processing. Grant could only watch, hollow-eyed, as his wife was loaded into the cruiser. Before the door closed, she locked eyes with my window, hissing, "Your days here are numbered." Police spent an hour collecting evidence, taking statements. I provided every clip. The sergeant's verdict, charges would stick, bodycam corroborated intimidation, and internal affairs would examine Grant's involvement. As dawn tinted the sky, I swept shattered glass, dogs pacing anxiously. Peace felt distant, but the law had at last drawn an unmistakable line, one Karen had stumbled over in steel-toed arrogance. Karen's arraignment drew local press. Cameras captured her escorted in handcuffs, hair now a disheveled halo instead of the tight ponytail. She pled not guilty, bail set at $5,000. Officer Grant posted it within the hour, but whispers said his precinct had reassigned him to desk duty pending investigation. Our TRO hearing followed 3 days later. Jade presented footage of every incident: yard trespass, door pounding, marble assault. Karen's attorney, a graying man named Mr. Sloan, argued I had provoked tension by refusing a reasonable HOA safety measure. Judge Patel's brow arched so high I thought it might levitate. Patel ruled decisively, permanent protective order, 300-foot radius, no HOA contact except through counsel. She also admonished Sloan, HOA authority ends where property lines, and criminal statutes, begin. The ruling catalyzed a board mutiny. Elaine Porter, secretary, convened an emergency session where 7 of 9 members voted to suspend Karen's presidency indefinitely. Grant, still listed as HOA security liaison, resigned via terse email. For the first time in years, Sycamore Hills HOA found itself leaderless, and residents breathed freer. But legal wheels kept grinding. The county prosecutor filed additional counts, attempted burglary and conspiracy to intimidate a witness, the camera evidence. Karen faced potential felony time. Sloan sought a plea. Prosecutor offered diversion only if she admitted wrongdoing, paid restitution, and completed anger management. Pride warred with pragmatism until mounting fees forced her hand. She pled guilty to misdemeanor vandalism, accepted 2-year probation, restitution for my window and legal costs, plus 200 hours community service, ironically, trash pickup along the very street she once policed for lawn height. Settlement money landed in my account. I replaced the broken pane with laminated security glass and used leftover funds to upgrade porch lighting, motion-triggered LEDs that bathed the yard in daylight at the faintest rustle. Meanwhile, Jade pursued a civil claim against the HOA for negligence. Board members had enabled Karen's abuse by funding compliance patrols. Mediation ended with the HOA's insurance carrier cutting a check, small compared to criminal restitution but symbolic. Acknowledgement that collective power demands collective responsibility. Officer Grant requested a private meeting. I agreed, in Jade's office. He arrived in plain clothes, hat literally in hand. I'm sorry, he said, voice raw. Karen's intensity spiraled. I thought I could calm it. Instead, I weaponized my badge. Internal Affairs had docked him 2 weeks' pay and mandatory ethics retraining. He planned to sell their house and move near his aging parents. I nodded, accepting the apology but not absolving the choices. We shook hands, closure, not friendship. With leadership vacuumed, HOA membership rallied around Elaine, electing her interim president. She rewrote bylaws. No HOA agent may set foot on private property without written invitation, any fines require board majority and an appeals window, and key requests. Explicitly forbidden. At the first post-reform block party, Gus fired up his battered charcoal grill, flipping burgers while narrating for local reporters. Kids chalked, "Welcome back," on my driveway. Mrs. Lacey, once Karen's flashlight-wielding accomplice, approached with homemade pie and a tearful apology. Peer pressure, she said, she'd felt trapped under Karen's glare. I accepted, noting cameras had seen her de-escalate after the marble incident. By summer's end, Sycamore Hills looked the same. Trim lawns, matching mailboxes, but felt fundamentally different. Rules remained, yet now they served rather than suppressed. And my extra set of house keys? Still on my own ring, as they always should be. Autumn painted Redbud Court gold, and for the first time since moving in, leaves rustling outside no longer triggered fight or flight. Still, vigilance lingered. I kept the cameras, though alerts dwindled to prowling cats and UPS deliveries. One September afternoon, Elaine asked if I'd join the HOA's newly formed Security and Privacy Committee. I agreed, better to shape policy than ignore it. Gus signed on too, and even Mr. Webb, who'd once cowered under Karen's inspections, volunteered. Our first motion, sunset the old community key box proposal and shred any keys previously collected. The vote passed unanimously. We filmed the key destruction ceremony for transparency. Karen's court-mandated service placed her in a neon vest picking litter along the county highway. Residents drove by, unsure whether to wave or avert eyes. I glimpsed her once while running errands. She kept head down, shoulders hunched. Pity flickered, but caution held stronger. Some lessons carved deep. Officer Grant finalized the house sale and moved out by Thanksgiving. New owners, Leah and Armando Ortiz, young teachers, introduced themselves with fresh-baked conscience and zero interest in HOA drama beyond wanting a safe place for their toddler. Elaine organized a community chili cook-off in the park. I contributed a smoky veggie version, Webb's Venison Chili 1. Laughter replaced whispers, clipboards replaced by lawn games. When awards wrapped, Elaine raised a spoon. To boundaries honored and neighbors respected, she toasted. Cheers answered. I still keep the defense folder, now tucked in encrypted cloud storage. Footage rests there, not out of paranoia but memory, a reminder vigilance births freedom. February thaw arrived with an envelope postmarked from a nearby town. Inside, a crisp note: I apologize for my actions. Therapy has opened my eyes. Enclosed is a donation to the Sycamore Hills Community Garden. Use it well. Karen. A cashier's check for $750 fluttered out. I forwarded it to Elaine. The board voted to accept anonymously, designating funds for raised beds and pollinator plants. On planting day, half the neighborhood turned soil together, toddlers chasing worms while retirees plotted tomato spacing. Harmony, ironically, seeded by former discord. I stood near the herb plot, trowel in hand, when a silver sedan rolled by slowly. Karen at the wheel, windows up, face unreadable. She didn't stop, but she didn't glare either. Just surveyed the garden she'd involuntarily nurtured, then drove on. I exhaled, letting the symbolism root itself like basil in spring loam. Local news revisited Sycamore Hills for a segment, from HOA horror to model reform. They filmed Gus teaching kids how to toss beanbags, Elaine explaining the new grievance review portal, and me beside the garden, summarizing lessons. Transparency beats intimidation. Rights end at property lines. Cameras don't lie. The story trended a day, then the internet chased fresher outrage. Exactly how we liked it. Summer night, block-wide movie projected onto a white garage door. Families sprawled on blankets, Shadow the Lab mix, a recent rescue, snored at my feet. Leah Ortiz whispered that she'd never joined an HOA before because of horror stories. Sycamore Hills, she said, felt different, human. I glanced at the starlit sky. Constellations rely on distance and connection. Points of light held in place by invisible geometry. So, too, neighborhoods, each home a star, space between them vital, but lines connecting them essential. 2 years to the week after Karen's first key demand, I unlocked my front door, my key, my choice, and stepped onto the porch with morning coffee. Birds riffed, sprinklers ticked, and a breeze teased wind chimes. Familiar, yes, yet newly appreciated. Inside, the original manila envelope from Officer Grant rests in a shadow box frame above my desk, a cautionary art piece titled, "Not Yours to Take." Nearby hangs a printout of the new bylaw codicil: no HOA officer, member, or contractor may request or store private access keys. Neighbors wave, not out of surveillance but kinship. I wave back, content in the simple equilibrium of mutual respect. An HOA can nurture community or strangle it. Power, like garden soil, grows what you feed it. We chose transparency, accountability, and enough sunlight to scare off mold. So far, things stay green. And if someone ever forgets the lesson and reaches for a clipboard of overreach, well, the cameras still run, the statutes still stand, and this time an entire street knows exactly how to say no.